Welcome to Conversation with Buddy. I'm your host, Buddy Puckett. Well, here we are. It's Friday morning, and we're doing another podcast. You know, we've been doing this for a couple years now, and it's really, for me, it's been a great joy to meet with a lot of people in our community, and I hope you're enjoying it as well. Again, the goal is that we inspire and encourage you by the stories that you hear, and this morning will be none other, and I get to introduce you to a friend. We've been friends for probably 5 years or so, and he's got quite the story. So without further ado, welcome, Phillip Wade. How you doing, man?
I'm doing good. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah. Okay, let's talk real quick before I introduce you or really dive deep. You have a stage name.
So that's right.
You want to talk about that?
Sure.
All
yeah,
right.
Absolutely. Yeah. So my full name is Phillip Wade O'Donnell.
Okay.
I go by Phillip Wade as my stage name in terms of directing or acting, or a lot of the movie stuff as well.
Yeah.
Media production, things like that.
Dude, that's awesome. Well, cool. Let's dive in a little bit because we want to know who Phillip is. We're going to talk about, hey, where were you born? Tell me about your family, and then just start with that, and we'll just dive in from there.
Sure. Yeah. Well, my parents are from Southern California, and I was born here in Oregon, so native Oregonian.
Nice.
And they moved out to a place. It's by Mahama, so it's kind of out there towards like heading up to Detroit, so out in the country.
Yeah.
And I come from a pretty big family, so there's a total of 7 of us kids.
Wow.
Yeah, I'm the second oldest.
Okay.
So I have a lot of brothers.
It's all boys.
No, actually 1 sister and then 5 brothers. So
Okay, real quick, where's the sister at in this whole...
she is the oldest.
So you have an older sister. What's her name?
Patricia. Yeah.
Okay,
She lives up
interesting.
in Washington now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've met some of your brothers, so I know I see you out and about out for coffee, and so I knew you had a lot of brothers, but I didn't know you had a sister.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, and 2 of my brothers are in the Guard. So one of them is in basic training right now. And then another one recently got back, and then he's heading off to deployment to Africa. He's going to be going to like 4 different countries out there.
Good for him.
Yeah.
That's exciting.
Yeah.
Okay, so you grew up in Mahama. Mm-hmm. So what high school did you go to?
Actually, I was homeschooled.
You were homeschooled.
Yeah. So most of us in the family were homeschooled. A couple of my brothers ended up going to private school for a little while and then back to homeschooling. So kind of a hybrid approach.
Okay.
But in my case, I was just completely homeschooled.
All 12 years.
Yep.
Okay. So how'd you do sports, or did you do sports or music or?
You know, I never did sports.
Okay.
Now, I guess I do play tennis a little bit and that kind of thing, but I don't know if that really counts, right?
It does count, yeah. Hey, I think tennis is a great sport, man. Yeah, for sure.
So some of my brothers got a lot more opportunity to like play basketball and do stuff like that. But my brother Tim and I, early on, we started filming stuff. So we got a hold of my dad's camera. He did a couple of weddings. And so we had this big tape camera, JVC, I think was the brand back then, you know, and we would sneak off into the woods and we would film stuff. And so we like imagined there were dinosaurs and things like that. So we had these like little toy dinosaurs that we'd put into the shot, and like, you know what forced perspective is, where you have it like the dinosaur's like close to the camera and then the person's far away. So like you try to make it look big, that kind of thing. So we started messing around with that. And so that was kind of the sports for Tim and I, was pretty much just, doing videos. And
so walk me through your siblings. Your sister, what her name again?
Patricia.
Okay, and Phillip is you, and then go down from there.
Yeah, so then there's Tim, Stephen, Matthew, Danny, and David.
Dang.
Yep.
It's a big family. Your mom, man.
A lot of biblical names, too.
There's a lot of biblical
about
names there. That's really cool. I love that. I love that.
Except for my sister. So,
okay.
Yeah, I think she'd be the only one.
Okay.
Yeah.
So is your mom and dad still in Mahama?
Well, my mom lives here in Salem. My dad is still out in Mahama.
Okay.
It's still the same little hobby farm kind of place. It's like 3 acres, but there's a lot of access to the woods and other places around there. So
your whole, you know, you're in filming. You make movies and stuff. That started way young. Like you knew early on, you love that.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I picked up my dad actually had a film camera at the time too, just a photography camera, and I started taking pictures with that, and I enjoyed that, and then worked with the video stuff with the tapes, the big giant tapes back then, VHS and all that.
Totally.
And that's how we would edit, was on VHS. So there was no I don't know, Windows Media Editor or whatever it is that people use nowadays. I mean, we actually had to rewind the tape and then record sound effects and stuff onto the tape directly, and then make our stuff that way, which is actually a really good way to learn how to do it.
Right. Well, I was thinking real quick, you and I met through a guy named Dan Weiss.
That's right.
Is that right?
That's right.
How long ago was that? 5 years ago, 6 years ago, 10 years ago?
Yeah, you know what? I would say it's probably around 8-9 years ago.
I think so, because COVID's already been 5 years ago, right?
Mm-hmm. So it was before COVID.
It was way before COVID. So yeah. Okay, that's awesome. Okay, so after high school, what'd you do?
Well, I started working at a pet store in Staten, which is the nearest town there, and worked there for 3.5 years. But I really wanted to get into something more professional. Yeah. And I eventually landed a job working on a website for Kaiser. Okay. And city over here. And yeah. Yep. And so I built a media website for the Comcast public access channel. And eventually I got hired, and I started working full time, doing the video production for Kaiser and working on the website and other websites. And then I eventually worked for web development companies. And during that time, my brother and I continued making short films and learning new equipment and upgrading and things like that. Yeah. So we started doing commercials for people. And it just kind of snowballed from there. Nowadays, I do a lot of safety and health training videos as well, but also continue doing little commercials, and social media videos are kind of now the thing. So do that as well. And we've continued making films. We're on our second feature at this point, but we've done a lot of other shorter films before that.
Yeah. Okay, and we're going to get to the movie stuff, because I want to hear, that's really what we're going to talk about. So you and Tim are really the closest, would you say, out of your family? Is that true?
Pretty, it's hard to say for sure. Okay. But Tim and I work together a lot.
You work together a lot.
So we've developed a very strong connection over the years, filming things and working on projects together, and just creating a lot of things.
Totally. And how old are you right now?
I'm 33.
You're 33, man. Time is ticking along.
I know, right?
Gotcha. You got married a short while ago.
Yeah, about 5 years ago.
Has it been 5 years already? I remember when you were a single guy, dude. Isn't that funny? So,
I know, right?
That is too funny.
Yeah.
So how did you meet this lovely lady, Jordan?
We met on Match.com.
Okay, yeah. That's the way the kids are doing these days, right?
Right?
Hey, that works.
Yeah.
And so where was she from?
She's from the Eugene area.
Okay. And then you guys had moved. You guys got married. So walk us through that. Then you guys moved to Eugene for a while, if I remember.
That's right. Yeah. We moved down. We were up here in Salem, and then after COVID hit, we moved down to Crestwell, which is a little south of Eugene, and then back to Salem. So is
that where her parents live? Is that why you moved down there?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, I mean, partially. There was a great opportunity down there, and it was hard to find places to stay to, but it was really nice to be with the family and all that. So
okay, so you guys been married for 5 years. Where'd you guys get married at?
We actually got married at the Reed Ballroom.
Okay.
So
right downtown Salem.
That's right. Yeah, the Reed Opera House.
The Reed Opera House.
Yeah.
What, second or third level up, or there's a big
I think it's a third level up. Okay. Yeah, there's like a ballroom area up there.
Yeah. Awesome. Okay. So, you guys going on a honeymoon anywhere?
We went to, I think, Newport Beach, and we went to Mount Bachelor.
Okay.
So yeah, we kind of went. We had a bit of a traveling honeymoon. So.
Sounds like my wife and I. We got married a long time ago in 1991. We left.
Oh, that's the year I was born. So
no way. Yeah, you were a baby. Yeah. We did a traveling honeymoon as well. So I'd promised my wife 10 years later, though. Well, I promised her on the honeymoon that, hey, in 10 years we'll do this amazing trip. Well, all of a sudden 10 years came and I had to figure out what to do. So I don't know if that's your story or not, but okay. So you guys have been married for 5 years. What's that look like? What's the, I guess I want to hear what you love about marriage and what are some of those challenges that, being newlyweds that you deal with?
Yeah.
I mean, you guys have problems, right? Like the rest of us?
Absolutely.
Okay, good. Thank God.
I mean, I have a lot to learn and I've made a lot of mistakes. So, it's something that is a learning process for me. And, I think that, I think the best advice that I've ever heard is that you don't stop dating. So I think that something that, I think about a lot, and it makes a lot of sense. And I love Jordan, and she's an amazing person. And we've had a lot of really cool adventures together. We've been in a lot of places, Badlands of New Mexico, filming things. We got washed out in a flash flood down there while we were filming the proof of concept for our current film. It was, we've had some crazy adventures.
Dude, that's awesome. So you guys like to travel too? Is it kind of like what you guys like to do?
Yeah, I mean, I'd like to travel more, but I've been pretty busy with work around here, so it's a little more difficult.
Right.
I'd love in the future, if we can get to like some more film festivals and things like that, especially with the current film. You use that as like a springboard,
Yeah. Would you guys ever go like to the Medford Ashland area because don't they do a film festival down there?
I think so. I know Ashland has the theater group down there.
Maybe that's what I'm thinking of.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Last time we went down there, we just went to wineries. So,
okay.
Yeah. Jordan works at wineries. And so,
nice.
I learned a lot about the different types of wine and all the different, she's got her like, level 1 something. I forgot the exact terminology, but you get certified in like wine tasting.
So she's high level.
Yeah. Yes.
Well, what's your favorite kind of wine? White, red?
That's an interesting question because I feel like it kind of changes depending on the environment. Okay. So like if it's really hot outside, typically people like chilled white wines.
Okay.
Right. And if it's colder or you're eating a steak, maybe you want a red wine. So, like fish pairs with white wine. So, there's like, it's not like a cut and dry answer, right?
Okay.
It depends on where you're at. That's right.
It depends. That's interesting. Okay. That totally makes sense. But she sounds like she's definitely learning the wine language, which is pretty cool.
Oh yeah. No, she has it down. She's really sharp. Like she picks up on stuff really fast. And, I think she's been working, I guess it would be like maybe close to a year and a half now. But I know she's had an interest in it for quite a while, but she's also a writer too. So she kind of balances between those two.
Let's dive into, the whole movie. You're a director. That's really cool. I remember a couple years ago, you and Jordan lived in Eugene. You moved back up to Salem, and I think you're renting out a space where you're doing your movie production, right?
Yeah.
So talk to us about, maybe even go back a little further if you want, and just kind of where you're at today currently, because this is what we want to unpack for sure.
Yeah. So depends how much you want to know,
All of it. We want to know everything. Seriously. Yeah.
But yeah, so it all started with a short story that Jordan wrote. So she made a short story about 1,000 words called Life Cycle 63. And we were actually, I think we were actually engaged at the time, and I'd read her short story and I was enamored by it. And I shared it with my brother, Tim, and we were looking for a new project. We had just finished Mount Adams, our previous feature, and we were looking at something new, and I shared this with him, and he felt like, wow, this could be, a really good film. And I was already thinking that, but I didn't say anything. So I was like, okay, got some confirmation here. And so I talked to Jordan about it, and I was like, would you be interested in writing the script for a feature version of this short story? It had already won some awards and got published and all that kind of stuff. And so Jordan writes a lot of fantasy, but this one was a sci-fi, which is a little different, And it's about basically a team that's on an alien planet, and they're stranded in their spacecraft. And there's these like alien creatures that look like butterflies, and the wings cut people. So they have like these razor sharp wings. So, really, really interesting story. And so, she dove in head first and worked on the script, and it was a lot of, a crazy amount of effort on her part to develop all this. I think she spent about 2.5 years on the script.
Wow.
Yeah. I mean, it went to producers to review, and there was a lot of, people involved throughout the process. And this is her first script, for a film. And so, there was a learning curve there, but she jumped in, both feet in, and did an amazing job on it. And then, we decided, okay, we need a place to film this. And that's where Jerry came in.
Okay.
And Jerry helped us get a space out on Pringle. Yeah. And we had this like massive warehouse.
I saw it. It was pretty cool.
Yeah. And so we built these sets. We built spacecraft sets. And it's just an amazing journey through that. And, my brother Tim, he designed pretty much all the concept art for it. Yeah. Figured out, how we're going to put things together. My other brother Matthew, he actually helped us. He's a producer on this project as well. Did an amazing job on building the sets. Yeah. And these sets were, pretty big. Like we're talking like 4,000 square feet or something like that. Yeah. So we had a crazy time going through that process. But once we had all the sets in place, we had a SAG strike. SAG is a Screen Actors Guild. And we had a lot of setbacks that really added to the challenge level as we went through, and we had to work through those things. And we were able to work with some amazing actors in this film as well. We had Adrian Paul from Highlander. He's wonderful to work with. Robert Catrini from Jack Reacher, and G.I. Joe. And a whole list of other things, NCIS and stuff like that. But Robert and his wife Peggy, we flew them up from California, and they worked with us for I think it was like 10 days. Yeah. And amazing actor as well. And of course, we had my brother Tim is actually the lead in the film as well. And
no kidding.
Of course, he did a great. He went through a lot. We filmed some of it in the Badlands, and we got caught in dust storms and snow and cold. It was like -10 degrees some days.
Swear.
Yeah. He went through hell making that. Acting in it. It's tough being a lead actor.
Right.
And then my other brother Matthew also plays a part in it too, and he did an amazing job as well.
Dude, that's so cool. Hey, go back to Mount Adams. That was your first film, right?
That's right. Yeah.
So talk about that a little bit, and then we're going to talk about this new film. You're going to have to tell me the name again and when it's going to be out so people can watch it.
Yeah. So Mount Adams was a film that Tim and I made. I think we released it in 2021. Okay. But we shot it back in 2016. So it goes back a little ways. But yeah, so it's a story about some people that are researching UFOs. They go up to this mountain in Washington called Mount Adams. They get lost. A portal opens up and aliens come through the portal, and they have to survive. So it's a kind of a survival story, but it's a little campy as well. It was our first feature, and we had a lot to learn. Learning process on a feature, it can be really rough. There's a lot of things you have to learn really fast, and you got to, adapt to situations, and, especially, working with a team of actors, especially, ones that have flown out or maybe have lesser amounts of experience here and there. You have to figure out how to make everything work. And so, Matt Adams is a fun movie, and it's out. We had a Walmart release on DVD pretty much across the United States. And it's out on Tubi and Amazon and like most of the streaming platforms nowadays. And it's international too. So there's a lot of we've actually had some success in Mexico and India, as well as, there's another country, Russia even. Yeah.
No kidding. That's pretty cool. Well, anything worthwhile, there's going to be pain in things that you do. There's a learning curve. If it were easy, you probably wouldn't enjoy it, right? I mean, that's how things work. But the fact that you're still going, that you must still really enjoy what you're doing. So that's the good news. So, okay. So yeah, and the newest film is going to be.
This one's called Life Cycle 63, but the title might change.
Okay.
So, there's a working title for films. And in our case, that's the title of the short story, but it might be called Temerity. That's the name of the ship, the spaceship in the movie. But yeah, so I mean, this film is a sci-fi epic. It's been, let's see, how many years in the making? I guess it's coming down to almost 5 years at this point.
Dang.
And it'll be another year and a half before it comes out, at least. So it's been quite an adventure, just the ups and downs and everything. But, our goal with this was to make something that is that stands the test of time, something that has a good message behind it.
Yeah.
It's a found family story set in space in the 1980s.
That's awesome.
So it's the context of it is maybe a little unusual in that sense, but that's something that we love. And just kind of telling a same age-old story, but just in a different environment.
Yeah.
Right. And so, a lot of great inspiration from, classic sci-fi films like Solaris and Blade Runner and that kind of stuff, that have helped bring this, and Metropolis as well.
Yeah.
One of the original amazing sci-fi epics. But it's the grueling nature of just how long it's taken to shoot it has kind of pushed us all to our limits in a lot of ways.
Why is it? I mean, I don't know anything about film, so forgive my ignorance, but why is it taking so long? Is it a money issue, or if you had more funding, you could do it faster? I know that you also work a regular job, right?
Mm-hmm.
So and if you had it your way, what would be the answer to make it be done in 3 months, 6 months, 9 months?
Well, you can't make a film in 3 months, at least if it's a feature.
Sure.
But speeding up the process. Absolutely. Yeah. I agree. I mean, money always helps, right? You can, hire a lot of people who are very efficient and work quickly. I mean, we had an amazing crew on this film.
Yeah.
The SAG strike set us back because we had to get a special approval to film from SAG, and that took months and months and months. And we also had a lead actor drop out and had to get replaced. And these are things that happen to a lot of films.
Sure.
But I think in terms of answering that particular question, like how do you speed up the process? Yeah, a lot of times money does speed up the process, and that's something we didn't have the luxury of.
Sure, I get it. Yeah.
But it's also experience too, right? It's also being around the block enough to know what you need to do to effectively put your funds in place. Where do you spend the money that helps get you the most bang for your buck?
Right. Gotcha. Well, you have a lot of patience, though. I mean, you've been doing this for, quite a few years, and you still have another year and a half to go. So that's pretty cool. How does, I know you're a faith guy. How does faith play into all this? Being married, making film, how does that grow your faith?
I think in a lot of ways, this current project has humbled me quite a bit. When you reach your limits and you see how far you can go on your own, and then you get to that point where you need God to get you past that. And you realize how limited what our capacity is, right? And so I feel like this this current project over the last 5 years has been a very humbling experience for me, and it certainly has changed my perspective on a lot of things, and it certainly has made me, I think, a more spiritual person.
Okay.
I've had a much stronger interest in connecting with God and understanding what the message is, because I feel like on the onset of the project and even a lot of the way through, I had a lot of ego.
That sounds like a typical guy to me. Yeah.
I know, right?
I hate to admit it, but I'm pretty egotistical and prideful and all that stuff.
Yeah. And that's, that's kind of the tricky part too, is that sometimes success can be really dangerous. I feel like, you know, there's a lot of things, you know, when things are going well, right? Like we don't know what we're doing wrong because it's masked by the success that we're feeling. And then we just keep doing those things that are wrong. And eventually, you know, like the scripture says, you reap what you sow, it'll come back.
Come on, man. Yeah. Well, I think to that point, when you're successful, you know, here you were praying that, hey, Lord, show me the way. He shows you the way. And then pretty soon we're successful and we start giving ourselves credit. Like, check me out, man. I got it down. And I think that pride can slide back in there, and then we forget, oh, it was God that actually brought us along. But so real quick, did you guys, you know, you and your family, did you guys grow up going to church? What did that look like for you guys growing up?
Oh yeah. Yeah. We grew up, the first church we went to was Salem Baptist Temple. Okay. Which is not called that anymore. It's on Liberty. I think it's called.
Is that First Salem? Or First Baptist?
No, not the one down here. It's out south, Salem.
Got it.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think it's on Liberty or Skyline, one of those two. But yeah, it's been renamed. It's not.
Is it like a little church on the right hand side? I mean, I think see so. It. Yeah. Skyline Baptist.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay. So that's where you first started going.
That's where I first started going. And then we kind of home churched for a while, and then eventually moved on to a Mennonite church in Hubbard.
Okay.
Near
you guys
Woodburn.
lived in Mahama, and then you would drive either South Salem or Hubbard.
That's right.
Okay. All 9 of you total? 8 or 9?
Yeah, depending on the time frame, right? Because they didn't all come at once. So.
I get it.
But yeah, so the Mennonite church was probably the most interesting. It's what's called a Beachy Mennonite, which is an older style Mennonite church.
Yeah. How would that differ from the Skyline Baptist Temple to the Mennonite? What's the difference? Or I don't know if I even know the difference.
I'd say there's a lot of similarities between the two. The Mennonites, though, are kind of like the Amish in the sense that, you know, there's no TV.
Okay.
It's, you know, they use electronics, but it's a little more limited in general.
Yeah.
The Mennonites are very conservative. They don't do politics at all. So they stay
don't vote
clean.
Or anything.
Correct. Yeah, they stay clean out of politics.
Yeah.
Which is very different than the Baptists, as you might be aware. They are very involved in politics.
Yeah, exactly.
So, I would say that those are, and then of course they also have like dress code stuff, which Baptists do too, but the Mennonites are very, like when you go to church, you typically wear like black or white.
Okay.
It's very muted colors and things. They don't want to draw attention.
I get that.
Yeah. So,
I mean, it makes sense, and I can respect that. Totally. Mm-hmm. Would you say you're Mennonite today, or what would you call yourself?
I'm not Mennonite, although I do have a great deal of respect for the Mennonites.
Sure.
I think they're amazing people and such kind hearts.
Yeah.
Right. And just
that
very
matters.
genuine.
That matters.
I feel like they're authentic in a lot of ways. And that's something you don't see a lot in the world today. Mm-hmm. Even in a lot of Christian churches, authenticity is hard to come by. Yeah.
We all put on our Sunday faces and we act like everything's perfect, but down deep it's really not.
Yeah. Today, you know, I feel like I wouldn't necessarily ascribe myself to a certain denomination.
Yeah.
I feel spiritual. I feel, connected to the Lord, but not necessarily in any particular religion or denomination.
Gotcha. I'm sure you grew up reading the Bible. The Mennonite, did the Mennonites, do they read your typical Bible, or what's that look like?
Yeah, I think they were generally King James Version. I grew up on the King James version.
Those.
That's right.
Yeah. I like the King James Version. There's nothing wrong with that.
You know, I was actually, this past month, I've been reading Psalms.
Good for you,
and
bro.
so every morning I read a chapter, and so I've compared a couple, ESV and so forth. And, like if you read like Psalms 23, the classic, of course.
I love it.
Compare that, from like ESV to King James Version, it does not hit the same.
Really?
King James Version, in some of the words that are chosen are just out of this world.
Better, Would you say better?
I would say better. Yeah.
Yeah,
They definitely
yeah.
hit a lot harder.
I like that.
I feel like there's a lot more weight to some of the words. And that's something that I pay attention to. Because but yeah, compare Psalms 23 to the different versions. And you'll see that King James comes out on top every time.
Done. Yeah. I go to a church and they preach from the King James Version. I read either New King James Version or the New American Standard. I've never really read the ESV much, but I like that. I like that you've compared and it really means something to you.
Yeah, yeah. Well, words are powerful.
Words are powerful. Yeah, this was good. Phillip, what would Phillip today at 33 tell his younger self? What would be the wisdom you go, hey, Phillip at 20 or 15? Because this would be. I mean, I think guys take a while to mature.
Oh yeah, I don't know if I've gotten there yet.
I'm just speaking. I'm 56 and I've still got a ways to go. You know, God knows, and you know, and my wife knows. But what would Phillip say to his younger self? And I don't pick an age. I don't really care. But what are some of those lessons you've learned? You mentioned you've been humbled, and I get that. What would that look like, to your younger self?
Wow. Yeah. That would be quite an opportunity, right? If I could do that. I've thought about that, like, even like making a story about it or something.
Okay. That's good.
I think we all wish we could, right? At some point we could reach back in time and we could like shake ourselves and, hey, listen to me. I have something important to tell you. Buy Bitcoin when it's $10.
Right. Right. Yeah. Buy Bitcoin when at $10, man.
Yeah. Right. But I think in all seriousness, if I could think back and if I could go back in time and talk to my younger self, I think I would tell myself to be a little kinder.
Really?
Be a little kinder to myself and to other people, especially, and to like, learn patience, develop skills, especially like really developing empathy and understanding how, to like, it's a skill that you get. And like, we all have different levels of like understanding.
Sure.
But, I feel like that would be something really important, and to, not lose, I think the identity, right. That I have, and to, understand, if I could go back, I'd just tell myself like, work isn't everything. It's not, what you do doesn't define you. And that's something that I've struggled with. And like, even now, like the process of this film and all that, that's something that I've, has really been brought to light, that like, I need to, like work with that and understand that, we're more than just the things that we do.
Man, you're 33, so I'm a lot older than you. And I'm only learning that just in the last few years. Like, my work doesn't define me. It's not my identity. And COVID really brought that out of me to help me realize that. But how many of us guys walk around and our work is our identity, And I was just thinking too, I've known you for a long time and you're a kind guy to me. But I recognize you have a bunch of brothers and siblings, and
we're rough.
You're like, you probably get in a few fights, I'm guessing, with your brothers.
Oh, of course we have.
Course,
it's good. I think that like, there's a healthy confrontation.
Totally.
Scripture says iron sharpens iron, right? And so, I think that men especially need to be willing to have confrontations, but have the maturity to understand that you don't take that personally. Yeah. Right? You can disagree about something. You can argue. You can work through things, but not take it home.
Yeah. Dude, that's some real wisdom. I meet with a couple guys, Tim Davis and Sven Anderson. We've been friends Sven and I probably for 25 years or so. We met this morning for coffee, and we meet to talk about iron sharpens iron, as one man sharpens another man. We have to do that. And most men, they isolate. They don't show up. And look, I'm not perfect. I know me. I need to show up. My wife's like, you're going, right? And it sounds like you're a guy that shows up, and you want to be a kind guy. You want to be a loving husband. and a really a great brother, right? And so it sounds like it means something to you.
Yeah, and I guess the part about that too is that I've fallen short in so many ways. I mean, I know that with my relationships with my brothers and Jordan and my marriage and everything, I certainly have failed in a lot of ways. And it's I think the hardest part, right, is recognizing like where that's happened, and then because as humans, like it's part of our, what do you call it, instinct, right, to feel like we're good people, right? And everything we do is good, right? Just automatically because we're good people. And so like when things get brought up, it's easy to dismiss or avoid things.
Yeah.
That can be pretty damaging over time.
So Jordan or one of your brothers or your sister or your parents, they come to you and say, hey, you're the guy, you did it. How do you respond? Because
yeah, right. I mean, in the past,
in the past, and then today,
in the past, I've been pretty bad in that sense. The stereotypical kind of you must have misunderstood me, or that's not what I meant to say, or very dismissive. Now,
so not accepting ownership, justifying your action, and hoping that they'll understand.
Yeah, I've done a lot of that.
Yeah, hey, I know that guy. Me too, man. Well, it's good to hear a guy like you, Phillip, because I think you are a super nice guy. I've never known you to be mean, but it's good to realize you and I are wired. We have the sin nature, and honestly, I'm not always the kindest guy, and unfortunately, my wife would probably feel the brunt of that. And so, what my wife likes or loves is kindness. And I like the verse in Romans chapter 2. It's the kindness of God that draws us to repentance.
Yeah.
It's the kindness of God. And so God's kind to you and I. And so why are we not kind? And so I'm convicted, right? Me too. I fall short every day. And but thanks be to God's grace and his mercy and my wife's mercy toward me, right? So I think you're a great guy. I really do. I think you...
Checks in the mail.
Checks in the mail. Good. Okay. The address. But I think you're being transparent, and I really appreciate that. That's humility. That's leadership, saying, hey, I don't have all my stuff together. I do fall short. I do need to apologize. And so for me, I was meeting with a guy yesterday. I meet with a lot of guys. That's part of my calling is ministry, is meeting with guys, hanging out, asking good questions. No judgment, just like, hey, where are you at? How are you loving your wife? And the guy yesterday was, he's struggling in his marriage, and you wouldn't know it. But what really came out is probably not reading his Bible. Definitely has isolated himself from other men. So there's no iron sharpens iron. So that's always the challenge for me, is like, hey, I'm not perfect. You're not perfect, but here's some of those things you can actually begin to do to be aware and allow people to speak into those blind spots. Like, I don't always enjoy when my wife says, hey, you're the guy, like, or my buddies, but I got to be willing to hear that. So I think what you're doing is sharing the truth with me. You're being transparent and authentic, and that's good, right? So
it's actually freeing.
It's free.
You know what? It's a big burden off your shoulders. Like, because it's hard carrying around this weight of trying to be somebody beyond where you're at. It's like it's tough.
Would you call that even fake in a way? Because I know me,
Sure.
and you know you, and we're trying to put this Facebook lifestyle on, like everything's great.
Oh, right. Yeah. Yeah. Well, I did drive in the Bentley that I rented for the show today. So.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll get a picture of that. So
perfect.
Yeah. This is good. This is good. How do you? I think it's important. You're a young married guy, 5 years in, and marriage. There's a book. It's called. I can't think of the title of it, but the question is, what if marriage wasn't designed to make you happy, but to make you holy? And so when you think about being married to Jordan, you're a guy, she's a lady. We think differently, and then
right.
how do you show her you love her?
Yeah, that's a very deep question, right? And I think that's something that I didn't recognize until recently, just how, because a lot of times we assume that the people we're with think like us. So like if I like something, they must like it too.
Of course, man.
Right? Like, and so, I mean, looking back on it, it's like, well, that's kind of stupid, right? But we just do it subconsciously a lot of times. And that's something that, a trap that I've fallen into quite a bit. And so, I think, a great book that I recently read is His Needs, Her Needs from Willard Harley. It's a classic on marriage and relationships. But it does make a lot of sense in terms of like a big part of marriage is actually just understanding what your partner needs, right? Not necessarily what you think they need, but like really understanding their personality and their background and all these things, but it takes time. Yeah. You actually have to put effort into like learning and talking and having those conversations. And, I know a trap that I've fallen into quite a bit is like, I've been always very focused on things like, like what's the topic of conversation? What are we trying to fix? Right?
We're fixing guys, man.
Yeah, right. It's
Come
like,
on,
what's
tell me your problem, I'll fix it for you.
Right. And unfortunately, doing that, like you circumvent that whole process of learning about what that person's needs are and what their wants and hopes and dreams and desires and things that may not even seem related. Because a lot of times, like guys, I know this is true for myself. Like it's very direct, right? Like like okay, this is what you want. Okay, got it. Right. This is what it's like. Things are black and white.
Very.
But that's not necessarily true. On the other side, right? Like. If you're really digging deep into something, you have to also understand the things that aren't related because everything is related, even if it doesn't necessarily connect logically. Right. There's all these parts and pieces come together. And, the other thing too is that, people change too. Like something that, she may have liked 2 years ago isn't necessarily the same thing today. And a lot of guys like, well, hey, you love this, so I'm just going to keep doing it for you. And, just like they get left behind basically, right? Because
we make assumptions, right? We know what the word assume means, so right?
Absolutely, yep.
Man, hey, there's first of all, His Needs, Her Needs. I like that book. I've never read it, but I'm going to read that book. Have you ever read the 5 love languages?
I haven't. It's one of the things that I need to do. Jordan actually recommended that to me when we first got married, and I never got around to it because I was like, I've got it. We're in love. We don't need all these books of advice and things like that. Which I was way off.
Yeah, and you might make assumptions that because there's 5 love languages and we all have all of them, but there's 1 or 2 that are the primary, and so when you think about your wife, would you know exactly what it is that she loves most? Whether it's physical touch, it's acts of service, gifts, words of encouragement. I don't know, remember all.
Yeah, that's right.
And so you're not going to why it's this one here. And you're like, no, it's actually not that one at all. Like, what? Right? So it would be a great exercise. So that would be my challenge for you is, well, your wife already challenged you with it, so you should take up her challenge.
Yeah, absolutely.
Dude, this is really good. I really appreciate this conversation. Hey, we're going to wrap up here in a moment, but let's talk about Bitcoin or cryptocurrency. Sure. I want to hear about that. And then I'm going to ask you a question is like, maybe a message you want to leave the audience that maybe we haven't talked about. So let's talk about cryptocurrency. Where are you at with all this here? Because you and I have a friend named Dan Weiss. He got me into cryptocurrency a long time ago.
Yeah.
And tell me about your journey of cryptocurrency and where you're at today.
It's up and down.
Yep.
I did pretty well for a while. I bought Ethereum. Ethereum was kind of my main thing way back like 2018 or 19 or something like that. And yeah, actually, I think 2017 may have been the first year that I bought crypto.
Yeah.
So yeah, it has its ups and downs, and it did well for a while, and then I pretty much kind of coasted back down to where I started during the crash that happened like 3 years ago. Mm-hmm. and I ended up selling it all to work on the film. So I currently don't own any crypto. I mean, I guess I have some left over somewhere, but not like anything really substantial.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it's a fascinating subject. It's full of scams too.
Oh, totally.
You really have to watch out. But it is here to stay.
Yeah.
Ethereum, Litecoin, Bitcoin, XRP and all that, as long as they can find a good use case, right, they'll be around for a very long time and continue to, I mean, the price of Bitcoin, like it went up to over 100,000, right, a couple months ago. It's really connected to inflation currently, right? So like the housing market and inflation affects Bitcoin directly. So it's kind of like a ETF, if you think about it, or a, like the S&P 500, they're very closely correlated at this point in time, which it used to not be the case.
Right.
But it's gotten so big now that big financial institutions are buying it up.
And that makes sense why it's starting to mimic like S&P and ETFs.
Because you could, at this point in time, you could pretty much put your money in the S&P 500 and get about the same return as you would with Bitcoin.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Over the past few years, generally speaking, I'd say that's about the case.
Yeah. Cool. Yeah. I think, I like cryptocurrency. In fact, Dan, he taught me how to buy Ripple, XRP. Literally, back in the day when you had to transfer money through this code, and it's so weird back then. And now we go on to Coinbase, Robinhood, or whatever app, and we buy it in seconds. And so, I have lots of cryptocurrency. My favorite definitely is XRP right now.
Oh, yeah.
I'm definitely heavier into that. I like Bitcoin, but I owned it back when it was like 3,000. It went up a little bit, sold it, bought it again, sold it, bought again, and then what? 2022 when Sam Bankman-Fried bankrupted I don't remember which exchange, but
that's right.
Wasn't good. So I literally, like you, I watched it go up and watched it right all the way down.
Was it BlockFi?
It wasn't BlockFi. I can't think of the name of it.
Yeah, it was a huge crypto exchange.
Yeah, I think he's in prison now, but hey, let's do this though. We're going to wrap up. I want you just to end on, first of all, if you had your choice, how would you live the next 5 years? If you had $1 million, what would that look like? And then leave our audience with something that maybe we didn't talk about. I want to hear your motivations, really what I want to hear. Because I know, because you still work the day job, right? What would your life look like if you had $1 million in the bank, and what would that look like?
Yeah, that's a great question.
You think about it often, I bet.
Right? Yeah, I guess it's time to hit Cabo.
Come on.
I feel like I would probably scale back my work a little bit.
Yeah.
I would spend more time with family. Family would be, I'd do that. And then maybe get a house in like Mexico or Florida or something like that.
So Cabo would be the plan.
I love the beach.
You love the beach.
And you can keep something up here because I like to go back and forth. And, you never really want to stop working entirely because that's not good for your health, mental health and everything like that. So I'd probably keep working at the same time and, look at, seeing if there's another film that is available to me. But I don't know. It depends on, kind of what God would open doors for. Cause I feel like, this big lesson that I've learned too is that, God opens doors and you don't have to force them open. And so patience is the key, keep developing, build the skills. Don't wait around, obviously.
Right.
But at the same time, just watch for those opportunities. And when that door opens, there you go. But I feel like it's something that if I could go back, like I would probably not try to force as many doors open as I have in the past and just be a little more opportunistic to what is available. Yeah.
I think that's great advice to leave our audience with, is we're guys, we like to push through doors and we're coming through, we're going over, under, or through and realizing God didn't maybe open that door for a reason and being patient enough to wait for him to open that door.
there will come a point where the time is right.
Yeah.
You know, and if you're questioning whether the time is right, it's probably not. You know, so it's like, if you're in tune, you know, I know everybody's like, oh, I'm waiting around for the right time. Of course, that'll never happen because you'll never have like the perfect time to do something. But at the same sense, you know, you have to develop those skills to be open to like really understand like, okay, this is the time, this is the opportunity. Like, you know, what you guys did with this place is absolutely amazing, you know, and I'm sure that wasn't something that happened like, you know, you came up with the idea on Wednesday and then Saturday you bought the place and then
it was at least a decade in between.
Right.
At least a decade. A lot of meetings, a lot of prayer.
Yeah.
Waiting.
Right. And a team of people.
Yeah.
Right. Because it takes, you know, with what does scripture say? With wise counsel, make war. So
come on,
you know, it's same principle there. And, you know, yeah, I feel like a lot of people nowadays, especially with the instant gratification mindset that everyone has, they don't realize that good things take time. You know, if you want to accomplish something, it's something that takes years of effort and risk and, you know, faith, right? You can see in the future, but you don't have all the answers, right? But you can say, hey, I see it. It's there. I just don't have the resources to get there right now.
Yeah, the scriptures say without vision, the people perish. I think we have to have vision. That's what drives us to move forward to purpose. And we don't get hung up on today. Well, oh, it didn't work out today. I have a problem today. No, we're so focused on the future. And so I think you're really wise. You're quoting a lot of scripture. Tells me you're in the Word, that you really do want to be a man of God. You do want to love your wife. You want to have great family, great friends. And dude, I don't want to say I'm impressed with you, but I'm impressed with you, you know, because I was nowhere near where you're at 33. I was still trying to figure it out. Yeah, we're still trying to figure it out, but it just feels like you're farther along than me. So, hey, if somebody wanted to reach out and said, hey, I have $1 million. I love who you are, Phillip. I'm going to donate it to you. I'm going to loan it to you. Or they just want to meet with you and just learn more about you. How would somebody get a hold of you?
Oh, well, I'm on Facebook. Feel free to send me a message or that kind of thing. My email address is phillip@ambitionpictures.net. And, you know, welcome to, you know, give me a call. My number is 971-273-9155. So.
Perfect, dude. I'll put all those in the show notes too. And I don't know if anybody will reach out, but if they did, what a cool thing, what an honor it would be for you to be able to talk about what you do. And so that'd be great. But, well, hey, thank you guys very much for listening this week. It was a real privilege to have Phillip on here and just hear his story. I knew part of his story, and the thing about doing these podcasts is I get to ask more questions and learn a little bit more about people. And so no matter how well I know somebody, I always learn a little bit more. So, Phillip, I just want to say thank you for being here today. Wish you a lot of luck, and yeah, so cool, man.
Thank you. I appreciate you having me on. It's great to see you again.
Yeah. Well, hey, we'll connect again and probably grab a coffee, talk about cryptocurrency or something. So
that sounds like a plan.
Thank you so much. We'll see you next week.